Welcome into the 6th ever episode of Canadian Basketball Weekly here on the Maple Minute. As always, I am your host, Elliot Russenholt. We've got another good one today. A little bit of a change up in terms of content, obviously, with, again, we're late January, lots of stuff's going on. There's a little bit of break in some high school basketball stuff. Obviously, there was the NPA prep event that just happened this past I guess that would be last weekend, or might have been 2 weekends ago. No, that was last weekend, I believe. Yeah, that was just nuts. Really good, really, really good basketball. Lots of high-level competition. That was amazing. Nothing really too much happening this weekend. Obviously, there's the event out in Rhode Island that if you are following us on the Maple Minute, which I'm going to plug a couple times, if you're following Josh Millican, he'll be posting a lot about it. If you're following at TMM Recruiting on Twitter or the Maple Minute on Instagram, you'll see that Josh is there. He'll be in Rhode Island as of Wednesday night. So should be a really good weekend. There should be lots of content coming. Lots of content has come out as I'm recording this on Wednesday. So let's get straight into this. Our NBA Canadian of the Week, as we always like to start, we're going to go with Jamal Murray. Not that he's had any oh my God, this is amazing, but he's just been so steady the last 2 games over 2 big teams from the Eastern Conference in Milwaukee and Philadelphia. I believe he had 20 something against Milwaukee. No, I believe it was against Philadelphia, had 20 something, and I believe he had upper 30s against the Bucks. But he is making sure that the ship is steadied for the Nuggets. The one game that he didn't play very well, the Nuggets got blown out by the Knicks. So it's good to have him back, obviously, if you're a Nuggets fan. And it's good to have him rolling because he is as much as Jokic is very crucial for the Nuggets, he is, I think, the X factor for that team because he does a lot other things for them. Obviously, in the pick and roll with Jokic, he can hit shots. He can get to the rim. We know that. So he is integral, I believe, to that Nuggets team. And so he gets NBA Canadian of the Week just because he's been so good for them for the last while. And obviously against 2 of the best teams in the league, he came up trump again. So Jamal Murray is your NBA Canadian of the Week. NCAA Canadian standout this week. I've seen a lot of his name going around on Instagram and Twitter. He's been all over everywhere. People are really starting to key in on him now because he actually started to kind of regain his original form that he was at before multiple transfers. It's going to be Fardaws Aimaq. He had 13 and 12 in a big 2-point win over Stanford this past week. Fardaws has been everywhere. You know what I mean? He's currently obviously at the University of California, but he was originally at Mercer. Then he transferred to Utah Valley, which is where he really got his stuff going. And then obviously he was at Texas Tech last year. And then, he transferred to the University of California because he wasn't getting too much time with Texas Tech. He didn't play all that amazingly. I'm just pulling up his stats right now. His freshman year, he was at Mercer. Didn't really play. He was playing a bench role. Transferred, obviously, to Utah Valley. That's really where he got going. He sat for a year during the COVID year. He was already redshirting as a transfer before they put in all these rules. Then the following year, played 22 games. He had 14 points. He was great. And then it was really that 21-22 season where he exploded for 19 points a game. He was hitting threes. He was, and he was shooting at a good clip. He's hitting about still the same, about just under 1 a game. He takes about 2 a game. So he's a fantastic player. I wanted to highlight him. He's a great rebounder. This should be his last year because this is his 5th year in college. So sucks that it's with California. He did have to take a step back after really only playing 11 games for Texas Tech. I'm not too sure. I can't remember if it was due to injury. Even though I am a Big 12 guy, I'm a Kansas Jayhawks fan. I remember not seeing him in conference play. I can't remember if it was an injury or other things related, but it's good to see that he's now playing as a super senior with the California Golden Bears. Still putting up 15 points, still grabbing 11 rebounds. Not shooting as good from three at 35%, but it's coming up. He had a slow start to the year, and I'm glad that it's turning around for him because he is a good player. So he is your NCAA Canadian Stand of the Week, Fardaws AMAC. So normally this is where I would do the upcoming weekend tournament spotlights or game spotlights, at least in terms of Manitoba basketball. Nothing too crazy this week. There's a break in play for Winnipeg 1, the Winnipeg 1 division. So they didn't play any league games this week. They don't play till next week, starting on the 5th. There's a couple matchups, key matchups. Obviously, I'm recording this on Wednesday night, actually at 6:05. So Miles Mac Buckeyes and Kildonan East Reavers will have tipped off already. I do believe next week on the 5th, on that Monday, there's a couple K-Pack matchups. If you aren't familiar, the Miles Mac Buckeyes and Kildonan East Reavers are huge rivals. They're down the street rivals, essentially. Not as close, I will say. This isn't to throw it in anybody's face. Obviously, they're not as close as Dakota Glenlawn, or it's similar distance. I believe Dakota Glenlawn is a little bit shorter, but essentially it's the same thing. So those two teams don't like each other. So they tipped off at about 6 o'clock there. So, we'll see how that game ends up being. That's a pretty big game in terms of rankings. And then, there's a couple other games. I believe Sisler plays, Vincent Massey, the Vincent Massey Trojans. I believe the Trojans are at home for that one. So that should be a really good matchup. There's a couple Winnipeg 1 games starting on that Monday. And we're going to be getting some tournament action again soon. There's a little bit of a break here when the semester flips over for these kids. But there should be some really good basketball coming up if you're in Manitoba, in Winnipeg. Just go on the Manitoba High School basketball website, or I guess the Manitoba High School Athletics Association website. You can get all that information on there. It's fantastic. It's how I keep up with everything, or do my best to, if I'm not at the gym or obviously catching a live stream. So now we're going to head into the U Sports Player of the Week. This one was a little tough just because there were a couple really good names. I'm going to go with Donald Tay of Laurier for this week. He had 24 points in the win over Carleton and 23 in a close loss to the University of Ottawa GGs. And speaking of that game against the GGs, that is our U Sports Game of the Week. Ottawa won down the wire contest against Laurier. Free throw sealed the game for the GGs. That was my matchup of the week last week, and it obviously delivered. It was a really back and forth game. Donald Tay obviously gets Player of the Week. He was really steady, leading scorer in both games for the Golden Eagles. So hopefully that will be a turning point for Laurier. They've been really on the up and up. Hopefully that keeps them on the up and up. We will get here to the matchups of U Sports matchup of the week as we now ramp back up here and the updated rankings. Not too much change in the rankings, but we will get into a minute. Just want to quickly shout out the Maple Minute. Obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday. We released 6 articles today. There's going to be tons more content coming out this weekend. So if you're not already subscribed here on this YouTube channel, do so right now. If you're not following us on Instagram, follow us at the Maple Minute. If you're not following us on Twitter, that's where we do a lot of stuff on there as well. We're at TMM Recruiting. Follow me on all socials at Elliot _Russenholt on Instagram. And here it's at Elliot Russenholt H1 on Twitter. I did just release an article today. I was one of the 6. It was a player spotlight for Kismayo DeMichael for the Dakota Lancers and of Legacy Prep Basketball. So if you want to go check that out, please do. It's a great read. All of the articles on the Maple Minute are great reads. If you want to stay up to date with Canadian basketball recruiting, I guess some big news in terms of high school and prep basketball would be that potentially gets he is considered to be the best remaining recruit, or was. Hudson Ward of Western Canada Prep did commit to Penn State today. That's a huge get for the Nittany Lions. And a program that's been kind of up and down the last couple of years in the Big Ten. That should be a huge get for them. I'm a big fan of Hudson Ward. He's a great player. So now to get into the U Sports matchup of the weekend and the updated rankings. Not too much has changed at the top. The top 6 are still all the same. University of Ottawa GGs, the Victoria Vikes, Queen's University, Laurier, UBC, and the University of Manitoba. taking the number 7 spot this week after beating the University of Lethbridge, I believe it was, in back-to-back games, is the University of Calgary Dinos. They've been on, they as well as Laurier have been on the up and up. Two teams that have been a little bit of late bloomers, but they've been really good the last couple of weeks. University of St. Francis Xavier moves down the spot from 7 to 8. UQAM from the RSEQ were not ranked last week. They are ranked this week at number 9. They bumped Western. Western had a tough loss. They were at number 8. I'm surprised they're still in the rankings. I believe because there wasn't too much shakeup. I believe that is why they got a little. Western got a little lucky. They did lose to previously 1-13 Algoma, but Algoma came out with a late victory. That was, if you haven't seen that, go check it out online. That was a nuts end of a game. It was absolutely crazy. A layup like right at the end of the game to take the lead. It was just nuts. Just want to say, if you want to see any more updated, well, not updated content, but any more additional content for U Sports or anything, one of our other scouts and writers, Wes Laufert, shout out to him. He just posted an article. He was one of the other 6 people to post today, giving an update of what happened in the past week in U Sports, going over the top 10, and then TMU, who were dropped out of the rankings. He gives why they are out of the rankings as well. So if you want to check that out, please do. It's a great read. I read through it today. It was really, really insightful. So go check that out on the People Minute website. Your matchup for this week, I know it's another Ken West matchup, and I could be considered a little biased for this one, but it's the number 6 U of M Bisons taking on the U of W Westmen. Westmen were unranked after the last 2 weeks. They were off the previous week, and I don't remember who they played this past week, but obviously U of M was off this week. Essentially, it was to gear up for this little 2-game set against the in-province rivals. If you know Manitoba basketball, this is this draws a crowd. This is always some of the biggest games. Just checking here, U of W are coming off of 2 wins. 2 big wins, actually, 20-plus over McEwen at the Duckworth Center at home, where they will play a 3rd in a row at home. Or no, I guess this is actually their 6th game at home. Or no, sorry, excuse me. It'll be their 5th game at home. I can't read today. It'll be their 5th game at home. On Thursday, they'll take on the Bisons at the Duckworth Center, and then at 8 o'clock. The rematch will go 4 o'clock at Investors Group Athletic Center. It's going to be a fun one. They always bring out crowds. Obviously, I will say the game at U of M normally does draw a little bit bigger of a crowd, but it'll still be packed at the Duckworth Center on Thursday evening. It should be a really good matchup. I will probably recap that next week because that's probably the biggest thing to happen in U Sport, at least Manitoba U Sports, just because that rivalry is so fierce. Now, we're going to move on to the NCAA Canadian matchup of the week, and we actually have 2 Canadians taking on this week. Xavier Lee and the Prince Tigers are going to be taking on the Brown Bears in an Ivy League conference matchup. Xavier Lee versus Nana Owusu Aneane on Saturday. Tigers were undefeated in league play. They're coming off a loss to Cornell. They got to play undefeated Yale the night before. There could be a chance for Brown to pull off a big upset on Saturday night. Should be really good Ivy League basketball if you get a chance to check it out. And then to round off the show, it's NBA Canadian matchup of the week. Sunday night, Toronto travels to OKC. The best Canadian versus one of the best Canadians in the league. RJ Barrett versus SGA. I'll let you pick whoever you want to go with. I'm sure people will be screaming about that in the comments. Should be an electric game between the two of them, and they may guard each other at times. It should be really good. Obviously, OKC is really good this year. The Raptors aren't as good, but they're a young team. They're trying to gel. They've had some good wins, so we'll see. It should be a really good matchup. All right, so that will do it for this week's episode. Obviously, it was a little bit of a shorter episode, but there should be more content next week. We'll still be recapping NBA stuff, NCAA. There should be more youth sports. And hopefully, I will also have a new updated rankings just because there was that little break for in between semesters for high school students. There's a little bit of a break. But yeah, I'll still have the Spotlight of the Week next week for Manitoba basketball. Should be a really good one again. As always, like I've said multiple times in the show, I'm going to keep hammering it. Subscribe here on YouTube. Follow us on all socials on Instagram and Twitter. And stay tuned for all of our content coming. We are pumping out content like nobody's business right now. So if you're not already following me, you need to right now. Just go and do it right now. Like you need to be tapped. If you're in the basketball scene in Canada, you need to be tapped into us right now. We've got all sorts of content, no matter where you are in the country. We are tapped in every single province. We are your honey hole for Canadian basketball and Canadian recruiting here in this country. All right. That is it for episode number 6 of Canadian Basketball Weekly. As always, I'm your host, Elliot Russenholt. And I will see you guys next week for episode 7. It's already episode 7. That's crazy. Peace.